Welcome to Mindblow, the ultimate destination for jaw-dropping content that will surprise, inspire, and entertain you every step of the way. If you love discovering the unexpected, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and share with your friends to keep the excitement going. Your support helps us keep blowing minds and creating content you'll never forget. So buckle up and get ready, because this is just the beginning. The air was thick with salt and tension. Out on the South China Sea, a small Philippine supply ship pressed forward, bound for the BRP Sierra Madre. This rusty warship, grounded on Ayungin Shoal, is more than a wreck. It's a symbol of Philippine sovereignty. Today the mission was anything but routine. Chinese Coast Guard vessels, massive and imposing, blocked the way. Their horns blared, crews watching, radios crackling with demands. "Turn back! Leave Chinese waters!" But the Filipino sailors stayed their course, hands steady, eyes fixed ahead. They knew these were Philippine waters and their duty was clear. Suddenly a Chinese ship surged forward, unleashing a water cannon. A torrent slammed the supply boat, drenching the crew, rattling the vessel. Outmatched in size and firepower, the Filipinos braced themselves, refusing to yield. They weren't soldiers, but they were defending their nation's rights. The world watched as grainy videos captured this David versus Goliath struggle. Soaked and shaken, the Filipino crew maneuvered, searching for a gap in the blockade. Their persistence was heroic, a silent message: the Philippines will not be pushed out of its own waters. The standoff dragged on, every moment a test of will. This event at Ayungin Shoal became a symbol of a larger shift. After years of seeking friendship with China, the Philippines was now ready to stand its ground. The line had been drawn, not in sand, but in water. The world took notice. The Philippines' resolve was clear. The standoff was more than a supply run, it was a turning point. The nation's story was being rewritten at sea. It wasn't always this way. Not long ago, Philippine and Chinese leaders smiled for cameras, promising a golden age of relations. President Duterte shifted away from the US, turning to China for partnership. China pledged billions for infrastructure, railways, bridges, ports. The Build, Build, Build program was launched, with China as its star partner. Optimism soared. Many Filipinos hoped China would help lift the country out of poverty. Business leaders dreamed of new opportunities. Officials saw a shortcut to development. The South China Sea dispute was set aside, replaced by talk of cooperation. Friendship and money, it was hoped, would solve all problems. But as time passed, the golden age faded. Grand promises stalled, projects lagged or never began. Excitement gave way to doubt. Where were the railways? Where was the money? The vision of a transformed Philippines, built by Chinese capital, began to crack. The foundation of this new relationship was shaky. The golden age, it turned out, never truly began. Hopes dimmed as reality set in. The partnership was more illusion than substance. The dream was slipping away. The Philippines was left waiting. The reality of Chinese-funded infrastructure was harsh. Dozens of projects were announced, but few broke ground. Billions in promised investments remained just that, promises. The Mindanao Railway? Still a dream. The Panay-Guimaras-Negros Bridge? Only a blueprint. Delays and cancellations piled up. The few projects that moved forward brought new problems. High interest loans, lack of transparency, and fears of corruption. Critics warned of a debt trap. If the Philippines couldn't pay, China could seize assets. Chinese companies and workers dominated, leaving Filipinos sidelined. Resentment grew. Were these projects for the Philippines or for China? The partnership felt one-sided. China gained contracts and influence. The Philippines got debt and disappointment. Completed projects were overshadowed by those that never materialized. The Build, Build, Build program quietly sought new partners. Chinese-funded sites became symbols of broken promises. Dust settled where grand railways and bridges were supposed to rise. Trust was broken. Promises on paper had turned to dust on the ground. As economic promises faltered, China's aggression at sea escalated. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militias swarmed Philippine waters, intimidating and chasing away local fishermen. This was not friendship, it was bullying. Incidents multiplied. Water cannons, military-grade lasers, dangerous maneuvers. Videos of harassment went viral, fueling public anger. Diplomatic protests from Manila were ignored. Beijing's words of peace clashed with its actions at sea. Filipinos saw the hypocrisy, a partner on land, an aggressor at sea. The South China Sea became the emotional heart of the conflict. For ordinary Filipinos, the sea is heritage and livelihood. Watching it slip away to a foreign power created deep injustice. The government's soft approach lost support. The people demanded leaders stand up to China. Nationalism surged, forcing a change in foreign policy. The shift against China was driven by the Filipino people. Trust in China plummeted. Most now saw it as a threat. Public pressure demanded a tougher stance in the South China Sea. Social media amplified every incident. Videos of Chinese aggression went viral, sparking outrage. The story of David and Goliath resonated deeply. Intellectuals and former officials spoke out, reminding the nation of its legal victory at The Hague. The 2016 arbitration ruling became a rallying cry. Politicians, sensing the mood, changed course. Condemnations of China grew stronger and more frequent. The government's new, assertive stance was now a matter of political survival. The people's voice created a new consensus. The experiment of cozying up to China was over. From grassroots to government, the nation turned against the giant next door. The Philippines was united. The resistance to China was led by unsung heroes, ordinary Filipinos. Fishermen whose lives depend on the South China Sea refused to give up their waters. They risked harassment, becoming the nation's eyes and ears at sea. Their stories put a human face on the conflict, turning them into patriots. Overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, also played a vital role. Their remittances strengthened the economy, reducing dependence on China. Abroad, they acted as informal ambassadors, sharing the Philippines' struggle. Together, fishermen and OFWs formed the backbone of national resilience. Defending the nation was not just for soldiers, it was for every Filipino. Their courage inspired a country. Facing Chinese aggression, the Philippines rebuilt its alliances. The U.S. partnership was revitalized, military treaties reaffirmed, bases opened, joint exercises expanded. The message to China was clear: the Philippines was not alone. U.S. military aid modernized the Philippine Navy and Coast Guard. But Manila didn't stop there. New partnerships were forged with Japan, Australia, and even European powers. Japan provided patrol vessels and radar. Australia joined joint patrols. The Philippines also built ties with Vietnam, Malaysia, and India. This coalition isolated China, reframing the issue as China versus international law. The Philippines was no longer a pawn, but an active player. By rebuilding old bridges and constructing new ones, it ensured it would not face the giant alone. The world stood with the Philippines. The nation's strategy was working. In the end, China lost the Philippines because it failed to win trust. Influence can't be bought with broken promises or forced with intimidation. True influence is built on respect and trust. China demanded silence on its expansion, but Filipinos refused to trade sovereignty for development. The Filipino spirit, resilient, proud, and independent, could not be bullied. Images of Chinese bullying insulted the nation's honor, fueling unity. From sailors to fishermen, tech-savvy youth to OFWs, every Filipino played a part. This national awakening reaffirmed the country's identity. The Philippines seeks friendship but not subservience. Today it stands taller and more confident. China's influence faded because it never understood the heart of the Philippines. Influence without trust is just an illusion, and the spirit of a free people cannot be conquered.